Okay, maybe we're good now. I have no idea what's going on. Okay, maybe we're good. Hey! We fucking fixed it, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, maybe we're good. Hey! Okay, what a shit show. I was talking to myself for about 10 minutes. Then I looked at the chat and saw that I was talking to myself for 10 minutes. Thank you, Spider-Man, for letting me know. Little bit of audio issues there. I decided yesterday I did some fine tuning for OBS. I needed to separate some audio files in order to edit things more smoothly. And I guess that messed up the stream OBS settings. Looks like we got to start from scratch. I got to pull up everything again. Hold on. Okay. Friday special stream. We're back on track. The audio is fixed. I think we're good to go. Hold on. Okay, we're good to go now. Audio issues solved. Perfect. Let's start from the top, shall we? Oh my god, the CBC reporter looks so uncomfortable as Kevin O'Leary cites fact after fact of how badly Canada has been run into the ground by Trudeau, Freeland, and the Liberal circus. Let's take a listen to what Kevin O'Leary has to say here. Thank you all if you're joining again for the third time.
Someone who's no stranger to trade on both sides of the border. Kevin O'Leary is chairman of the O'Leary Ventures. He joins us now from Tucson, Arizona. Kevin, welcome back to the program.
Thank you so much.
Okay, let's start with your take here. You've been a vocal critic of Justin Trudeau as a Canadian entrepreneur. What do you make of the fallout here over the departure of Chrystia Freeland?
First of all, Freeland is the worst finance minister Canada's ever had because she's never run a financial institution. She started as a journalist. I'm sure she's a nice person, but that budget she just delivered gives you an idea of how incompetent she is. It's good she's gone, but she's not the real problem. It's Trudeau. I don't know if you've looked at any number you'd like to measure in the last 9 years. GDP per capita, capital flows out of Canada, the growth of the Canadian economy stalled out. The deficit, just this last horrific budget, I mean, I don't recall in my professional life seeing a collapse like this. That's why the Canadian dollar is in free fall. It's Justin Trudeau and his policies. And remember, we have to celebrate the fact, if you want to talk about longevity, he's been very successful as a prime minister, and he did it all without any executional skills. Now, the Canadian people pay the price, and it's just horrific what's happening to the country.
We're paying the ultimate price right now. Literally $62 billion deficit. Guys, I'm sorry about the spam and notifications. The stream had some issues, had some audio issues. We seem to be on track now. I'm starting from the top. So yes, we're watching Kevin O'Leary destroy Justin Trudeau again. But I mean, rightfully so. Justin Trudeau's an idiot.
Unbelievable mess.
Okay, it's embattled at home, mocked abroad. Kevin, Trudeau and Canada now becoming the target of U.S. President Donald Trump's roasts here. How does Canada manage this relationship with what is an unpredictable U.S. leader?
Well, let's talk about why this is happening to Trudeau and why he is embarrassing Canada so much. As you recall in Trump's first mandate, both Freeland and Trudeau bashed Trump almost every day they could, thinking he would never come into power. He is a relationship guy. He doesn't respect or like Trudeau. He said so much in the last 2 or 3 days, as well as Freeland, who he despises from NAFTA 2 negotiations. She's gone. He would love to get rid of Trump, and I think he's doing a good job embarrassing every Canadian internationally with what he's doing with all of this social media. And Trump realizes that he won't be negotiating NAFTA 3 with Trudeau. Trudeau's going to be gone one way or another, and that's...
Yes, he will, hopefully. I mean, we can only hope. My God, if he gets another term, it will be painful to see, and it will be shocking. It will be almost a matter of where are these votes coming from if he does win another term. Because, At this point in time, I don't know a single person who actually is going to vote for him. His own cabinet is collapsing beneath him. His own MPs don't even want to support him anymore. Speaking of that, what's next for Justin Trudeau now that some of his own MPs want him gone? Well, I had it set up perfectly before, but due to the issues, I had to restart here. What started out as a secret movement to oust Trudeau in October has spilled out into the open, and a growing number of Liberal MPs seem increasingly comfortable with calling for him to resign. About 15 of these Liberal MPs have gone on record saying Trudeau must resign and make way for somebody else. I had a clip up here of the other day when Justin Trudeau held this secret private emergency meeting, trying to keep his job more or less, trying to probably reunite the Liberal Party as it's falling apart here. We take a little listen at this video here. Put it in the YouTube view.
Resign.
It's over there.
Thank you.
Oh!
So you should resign, Prime Minister? Yes.
So he should resign, and he says yes. His own cabinet is literally falling apart, and as we speak right now, Trudeau cabinet shuffle is happening, and 8 new ministers have been sworn in. We saw LeBlanc take Chrystia Freeland's spot as the finance minister. They're playing musical chairs. We're seeing a ton of new MPs pop up left and right. That woman that took over for Randy, right? She's brand new as well. She came out of nowhere when Randy stepped down. Now LeBlanc is taking over for Freeland, and 8 new ministers have just been sworn in. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has shuffled his cabinet after a chaotic week for the Liberals that saw 2 ministers step down and lingering questions about his future. 8 new ministers were sworn in, and 4 other existing cabinet members were reassigned at a ceremony at Ottawa's Rideau Hall on Friday. And we have this just hilarious news. Jagmeet says NDP will vote to bring down Trudeau government. Liberals don't deserve another chance, NDP leader says in letter. Nobody's taking you seriously. Nobody's taking your word serious. Nobody cares about what you have to say, Jagmeet. Nobody cares about the NDP anymore. This is why I blatantly talk over you guys every single time question period happens. Because the simple fact of the matter is, you had numerous times to do this. And now all of a sudden, oh, you get the deficit number, and it's time to vote him out. Now you're jumping on? Well, at this point, he's just the boy who cried wolf, and nobody gives a fuck about him sitting there crying when he's simply caused all of these issues as well. He is simply just as deep in Trudeau's pocket as somebody like Freeland was, or LeBlanc is, or Skeletor, or Mark Holland, or any of those Liberal MPs. They're all deep in the pocket of Trudeau, and Jagmeet is as well. He wants his pension. He doesn't care about Canadians. He's made this very obvious time and time again. I don't need to sit here and tell you guys. You could just go and watch any of his interviews with press. You can go and watch him during question period. He ousts himself every time he opens his mouth, and he's just an idiot, and nobody cares what he has to say. We have the Bloc. The Bloc leader straight up calling for an election. I mean, this is nothing new. The Bloc has jumped on board with the Conservative Party. Need to take a sip of water here. A sip of water for the working man. But yeah, the Bloc leader coming out and saying, it's time, man. It's time he goes.
C'est de s'assurer qu'on s'en aille en élection au mois de janvier.
Mr. Trudeau seems unconvinced at this point that he is not the person to lead the country. Why do you think that what you're saying right now will change his mind, that calling an election by the end of January 2025, why do you think that will appeal to Mr. Trudeau when nothing else seems to have?
I'm not certain that what I say appeals very much to Mr. Trudeau. My job is to say what I believe should be done, and I believe that if he wants to stay where he is now, he needs a mandate, and he does not have one as we speak. The only way for him to get that is to call for an election as soon as possible, because it would be absolutely irresponsible from him to maintain Canada in such an unstable situation for that many months still. If he wants to keep doing the job he does, he's got to go into election.
Vous parlez d'élection à la fin janvier, mais vous venez de dire en anglais le plus tôt possible.
Les gens ne seront pas. Il ne se passe. Exiger la même chose.
Do you think it's a good idea to have an election in January? Do you think it's a good idea to have an election in January when Donald Trump will also be inaugurated that month?
Who cares when the election is? It should have already happened. That's just the simple fact of the matter. The only reason it didn't happen is because Jagmeet wants his fucking money. And he's throwing an entire country under the bus for his $2.2 million pension. He is literally the only reason Parliament is gridlocked like it is right now. This election should have already happened. Doesn't matter. Yes, call it in January. Call it right now. The fact that they went on this 2-month holiday during the condition of Canada, what we're seeing right now, and they're just all going on this holiday to enjoy themselves, to sit there probably patting themselves on the back saying, well, look, we did an amazing job. We gave them a 2-month half-assed tax break. And then after that's over, we're going to fucking pedal to the floor on the carbon tax. Like, that's what they did. That's what we're dealing with. This is what we're witnessing. The election should have already been called. But no, they went on a break. They don't deserve this Christmas break because they're not doing a good job.
I do not see any relation between Mr. Trump's inauguration and the Canadian election. He will be inaugurated on January 28th, either we like it or not. And as soon as possible, we should have a new parliament, after which...
They need to stop making this about Trump and just make it about fixing our country. And that includes fixing the border. That includes removing the carbon tax. That includes bringing jobs back here in Canada, whether it's the softwood lumber, that entire scandal that's gone down, the absolute destruction of that industry. There's so many different aspects. Stopping production in China and then paying tenfold for Chinese steel, or refining oil in another country just for us to buy it back, our own oil. We send it to another country to get refined and then buy it back for tenfold. These are all things that could be done here. Jobs that could be brought back here. Things that would make our economy boost up to levels we haven't seen before, especially when it comes to natural resources here in Canada. But no, we're limiting ourselves. We're starving ourselves, not just financially, literally as well with food, and resourcefully as well, we're starving ourselves. We have such a vast country, and we are sitting here with a pathetic leader who he just doesn't have a brain. It's actually pathetic.
Will come a new government, which will, in any case, be closely under surveillance by
Brazil loves us.
the Bloc Québécois, and we'll try to get out of those issues as best as we can. I believe that we should look forward for common goals with Americans and Mexicans and find ways to achieve those goals together instead of fighting through tweets.
You've said... Vous croyez pas qu'il arrête... Juste dans une élection, si M. Trudeau quitte, est-ce que ça...
Après l'avantage
que à l'échelle
séquences inélégables propres sur B1, encore pas très sûr. Et faire dans ce cas forte le plus vite possible. Ne dis assurément pas que le Canada est fort à l'heure actuelle. L'un des problèmes que ça a aussi une façon dangereuse que sans renouveau au Parlement de travailler.
Que M. Trudeau a dire.
L'économie suivante et qu'on l'a.
M. Poilievre dirige ses attaques maintenant, on met la pression, vient...
M'aider et voter se retrouver en élection pour la manière là. Les circonstances de fait fixer seul et mention de monsieur allant ça me fait le cœur.
You said Quebecers and Canadians are not really interested in an election in the last few weeks, but you seem to think that that's now changed. Can you explain how? Is it
I'm
yesterday's
not sure you
event? Is it
understood well what I said. Canadian and Quebecers, I believe, want an election, but they do not want this election between Christmas and New Year's Eve, which is logical. So January is tomorrow morning. So let's do this tomorrow morning.
Je pour en revenir au départ à Mme Freeland, vous avez vu peut-être le message de M. Trump hier. À la limite, il a l'air de présenter ça comme une bonne nouvelle. Donc, est-ce que ça pourrait avoir un avantage collatéral de faciliter les choses?
That's actually wild because, okay, hold on. The CBC actually did hit this channel. They copyrighted the last live stream or the live stream before, and they hit the video that I titled Trudeau Holds Emergency Meeting. They hit that one. They hit Watching the Government Collapse in Real Time, and they hit Freeland Resigns and Trudeau Panics. And now every single one of those copyrights is gone. That is actually wild. In real time, we are witnessing the CBC trying to shut down. I don't consider myself a journalist. I think that's kind of lame, but they're trying to shut down independent journalism with copyright hits, which they did to my channel. They actually did. All the restrictions are gone now. But yeah, they did that, and then they removed it. That's actually wild. That is actually crazy. I had a clip on the channel that was definitely informative enough, and what's the word that they use here? You can't just steal content one of one and re-upload it, right? You have to add things to it, whether it's your own insight or whatever the case is. I definitely added enough of my own insight to it. I definitely make the videos my own, right? They still hit the video. I was going to run a claim against it to fight the copyright strike, or the copyright claim. By the way, a copyright strike is much different. A strike can actually take down your channel. A claim is just a claim. I got hit with copyright claims, not strikes. But they have all been removed. I was going to fight them, but they've all been removed. I just think that is quite interesting.
Si le gouvernement libéral était appelé à renégocier le...
And by the way, I'm skipping over all the French. If that hasn't been cleared from the get-go, just got to point that out. Skipping over all the French.
Why do you think that international partners see us in the same way that you're describing?
I'm not saying that international partners see us the way I describe. What I say...
It was exactly the clip, yet where Karina ran up to the podium, threw down the documents, and ran away. It was exactly that clip, too. Plus a bit of Poilievre's speech involving all of that. And a couple other arguments that had happened within the House of Commons there. The whole idea behind that, though, is that they wanted people to edit their own videos after posting it. Because you can go into your own videos and manage them and edit them and cut certain sections out on the actual YouTube editor itself once a video has already been uploaded. So the whole idea is the CBC strikes your videos, and then you go, well, I can't... Some people, A, can't make money off of it now because of the copyright strike, or B, people get scared because of that, and they'll either take down the video or edit out or trim the segment out of their video. So the CBC is specifically going out of their way, which, by the way, is a government bought and paid for news organization. They're going out of their way to straight up more or less silence independent journalists. And once again, I don't consider myself an independent journalist. I'm just a guy with a microphone that covers what's going on. But if you do consider yourself that, then yeah, you were more or less just getting silenced. That was a straight up attack from the government on independent journalism right there. And they had to go back on it. They had to go back on their copyright strike or copyright claims. It is actually crazy because the CBC is bought and paid for by the government. It's actually one of the government going after independent journalism live in real time, and they had to go back on it. It's actually mind-blowing. I can't stress this enough. I wish I took screenshots. I could probably go back and see if the strike... I have the emails still. I have the emails. I should have them somewhere. But yes, in real time, we just witnessed it happen. I'm gonna screenshot this right now, and I'll show you guys exactly what I got hit with. I want to show you guys one of what exactly I got hit with. Because I feel like this is important. This is quite important. So right here, hi Wendy Talks, copyrighted content has been detected in your video, watching the government collapse in real time. This is one of 3 emails I received. The visibility of your video is not impacted, but you can no longer monetize it. The copyright owner is now either monetizing it or receiving analytics about it. This is not a copyright strike and does not affect your channel, although it could potentially lead into that. Freeland resigns from cabinet ahead of fall economic statement, CBC Canadian Broadcasting Corp, updated December 18th, 2024. Content type video, impact on video, no impact until you become a monetizing creator. By the way, I can't become a monetizing creator on YouTube because of the stuff I upload. Believe it or not, the clips I upload and the things I've uploaded, YouTube's not a big fan of it, and they consider it to be re-uploading clips or whatever the case is. They don't like it. But anyway, here it says, what can you do? Edit out the segment by trimming, muting, or replacing the copyrighted content with the YouTube video editor. You can always revert the changes. They do say that, but I like to point out that this is still all playing into exactly what the CBC, this is what they're doing. They just don't want you to have any right to speak on these things, even though you do. You absolutely do in every way, shape, and form. And they're trying to silence people. It's just crazy.
However, is that Canada is the first member of the G7 that will be facing so closely negotiations with the Americans because Donald Trump decided so. And everybody will be looking at us, how we will react, how we will adapt, what we will do. But we have advantages. Canada is member of a free trade agreement with Asia, Pacific zone. And Canada is part of a free trade agreement with Europe.
With
United
Europe.
States are members of none of the two. This is where we should look at in terms of trade for the coming years. We will not be able to make major changes very rapidly, but we have to start working logically toward what are our needs and become less dependent on United States for our trade. This is the way we will get respect from Americans, and we will have to start speaking with the people over there who make decisions. There are in several states in the United States people who gave money to Donald Trump for his campaign and now would call him and say, please don't do that. We do business with Quebec, we do business with Canada, and it's good for us. We have to speak to those people. We have to stop fighting between ourselves, and this is what I said when we had this private meeting with Mr. Poiliev and Mr. Trudeau and Mr. Singh and Mrs. May. We have to try to present a more united front, and we are always dealing with inside crisis, one following the next, and there's only one solution to that. Let's be responsible. Let's call an election before the end of January.
Merci tout le monde.
Merci bien.
Calling an election before the end of January would be a fantastic late Christmas present. It's too bad that Jagmeet just didn't, follow suit with that to begin with. But I guess you can't always get what you want, right? Isn't that how that song goes? All right. We have the Senate. Now, this happened a few days ago. There was supposed to actually be Senate committees or proceedings and question period on the 18th and 19th as well, but they ended up shutting down all of Parliament early on the 17th, and we just have this session from the 17th. So we're going to watch the proceedings, a bit of the committee, and a bit of question period here as well. And that will more or less wrap up the stream. So let's get into it. Thank you all for being here. This is a special Friday stream. Had a couple issues earlier, had to restart the stream a few times. Some audio channels not lining up properly, some things. Had to recalculate everything. A lot of issues, I promise. It won't happen again. All right, let's get into it.
Senator Wu.
It was months before Christmas when all through the House, MPs were idle and boy did they grouse. A vote on non-confidence the cons did propose. Pourquoi ne pas passer à autre chose? The Nibs had torn up their deal. Bloc wanted to deliver the coup de grâce. Pierre did bluster and Pierre did blow. Jagmeet responded with, "I'm right here, bro." As for Justin, his numbers fell to a new low. His response was to appear on the late night show. Senators were nestled all snug in their beds while visions of government bills danced in their heads. The moon on the breast of the new fallen snow gave a luster of midday to objects below. When out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from my seat to see what was the matter. Away to the scrolls I flew like a flash, flipped through the pages for bills we could hash. When what to my wondering eyes did appear but a host of PMBs from the House. Oh dear. With a new clerk so lively and gaia, I knew in a moment it must be Shyla. More rapid than eagles, the numbers they came as she whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now fruits, now veg, now biosecurity. Are you sure we have reciprocity? On chickens, on turkeys, on eggs and dairy. Let's not debate supply management, shall we? To the top of the order paper, to the top of our call. Now dash away, dash away, dash away all. As leaves that before the wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle mount to the sky. So up to the top the private bills flew, with speeches and votes and lots of bells too. And so it was we were sent to work, filling stockings with a sigh and a shook. We gave out candy, diapers, and KFC, because on these there was no GST. St. Nick, his eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry. His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow. He said, "Tariffs are coming, 'tis most malapropos." And laying his finger aside of his nose and giving a nod up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim as he drove out of sight, "Don't you dare use the notwithstanding clause. That's my name. Good night."
My God.
Senator Cardozo.
Speaker, I was hoping you wouldn't call on me after Senator Wu, but here we are. Madam Speaker and colleagues, as we end the fall sitting of Parliament, it is time to highlight a few issues. We live in turbulent times in Parliament, in Canada, in North America, and around the world. There is a mix of dynamics in the economy and society. Inflation is down from a high of 8.1% 2 years ago to 2% today. Our debt to GDP ratio is around 20%, the lowest in the G7 countries. The deficit for the previous fiscal year was set at a high of $62 billion, announced in the fall economic statement yesterday, while it is expected that to be $48 billion in the current fiscal year. Our projected growth is 2.25%, the highest in G7 countries. The immigration system, I hope, is moving from out of control to under control. The Bank of Canada rate was just further reduced to 3.25 last week, a recognition that the fundamentals of our economy are sound. But the cost of living remains high for too many Canadians, Prices have not come down while wages have kept pace. Urban crime appears to be on the rise. The unemployment rate has been creeping up in recent months and now sits at 6.8%.
In recent months, hasn't it been more like years that the unemployment rate has been rising?
The climate crisis is growing. While the climate crisis is growing, not enough consensus exists either in Canada or worldwide. The pushback on equality is growing, with worrying backlash against DEI and ESG, and I don't have time to spell out those acronyms, but please look them up. The most recent threat comes from our neighbors to the south. But we have worked with President Trump in his first term, and there is no reason to believe that we will not rise to the challenge this time. My last thought is that senators should get ready to get out and meet our federal and state counterparts in the United States as much as we can in the 4 years ahead. Team Canada needs us. There will be many challenges ahead, so let's get ready. As my late mother would say to me, pull up your socks, stand up straight, and speak clearly. Chers collègues, je vous présente mes...
Dear colleagues, I give you my best wishes for Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and Kwanzaa, and my best wishes for a Happy New Year. Thank you.
Gotta love on the same day that they closed all of Parliament, they unanimously agreed to shut down Parliament. On the same day, the 17th, we have a speech here from a progressive saying how rough of a position Canada is in. And on the same day, they all just pieced out for the final day. They all unanimously voted to end Parliament early. To go home early. Oh, guys, we did a fucking terrible job all year. Let's go home early. Let's celebrate what we did this year. My God, it's just our Parliament at its finest.
Senator Patterson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honourable Senators, I rise today to offer a moment of reflection as we enter this holiday season. And I invite you to join with me in expressing our gratitude to every member of the Canadian Armed Forces, Canada's veterans, and all of their families. This holiday season, a number of members of the Canadian Armed Forces will be away from their families in location across the country and around the world, defending the values Canadians hold so dear. But I also want to send a holiday wish to those brave Ukrainian soldiers fighting against the illegal Russian aggression, and to Ukrainian children whose wish is for St. Nicholas to bring their parents home safely. We want this for you and for victory in Ukraine on your own terms in the new year. Ongoing global conflicts, such as Russia's illegal and brutal aggression against Ukraine, remind us that Canada's sovereignty, peace and democracy remains a collective effort worth defending, one that we all must keep in mind and within our hearts, no matter what. Nefarious actors, both at home and abroad, want to see Canadians divided. Sadly, mis and disinformation is spreading and is undermining the very trust that Canadians have in democracy. So, when you gather with your loved ones this season, take time to engage and respectfully exchange ideas on what it means to be Canadian and why our values are worth protecting. Because we cannot let fear, hatred, and division succeed. Colleagues, please cherish your time with your loved ones this holiday season and keep Canada's veterans, the members of the Canadian Armed Forces, and their families in your thoughts. And to members of the Canadian Armed Forces, thank you. Thank you for defending our freedom and the sacrifice of being away for your families at this time of year. And I want to thank not only you, our serving members, but also your families and significant others who support you every step of the way. Have a wonderful holiday season and best wishes for a safe and secure New Year.
Sénatrice Saint-Germain.
Senator Saint-Germain. Madam Speaker, dear colleagues, I am very pleased to rise today to highlight the excellence of one of our colleagues, the Honourable Senator Manuel Houdard. On December 2nd, Senator Houdard was awarded the Hommage Prize for 2024, the highest and most prestigious distinction of the Institute of Public Administration of Quebec. The award is presented each year to an individual who is clearly distinguished and recognized by their peers for the quality of their management or for the influence they have exerted on public administration in Quebec. I'm sure you'll all agree that these criteria describe Senator Udar perfectly and also describe her remarkable career within the Quebec Public Service.
To witness this remarkable journey, let me state a few of her accomplishments. In the 30 years she spent in the Quebec government, she was Assistant Deputy Minister to the Ministry of Education, Deputy Minister at the Ministry of Labour, then President and CEO of the Commission for Labour Standards, Pay Equity, and Occupational Health and Safety. Under her strong leadership, which was described by her peers as unifying, influential, and imbued with humanism, the Commission received numerous prestigious recognitions, including the prestigious United Nations Public Service Awards, an international recognition of excellence in public service. All this to say, colleagues, that I was not in the least surprised when I heard that she had received this prestigious award. It is truly a recognition of her devotion and dedication to the people of Quebec. Tous ces accomplissements lui auront d'ailleurs valu une...
All of these achievements earned her an appointment to the Senate of Canada in February 2024. From now on, all Canadians will be able to benefit from Senator Udar's knowledge, expertise, and know-how. I would like to take this opportunity to underline the extent to which her open and respectful attitude upon arriving at the Senate, as well as her interest in understanding the institution and contributing constructively to it, will guarantee the success that I am sure she will enjoy in this new chapter of her already exceptional career. Having joined the Senate of Canada less than a year ago, Manuelle has already begun to make her mark, a mark imbued with rigor and professionalism. Dear Manuelle, it gives me great pleasure to congratulate you on behalf of all of the members of the group of independent senators on receiving the Prix Hommage from the Institut de l'Administration Publique du Québec. It is a richly deserved recognition.
Senator Martin.
Honourable Senators, I'm delighted to rise today to congratulate Conservative candidate Tamara Jansen on her overwhelming victory last night as the newly elected Member of Parliament for the riding of Cloverdale-Langley City in British Columbia. For her, it's actually a re-election, as she had served as Member of Parliament from 2019 to 2021. Capturing 62% of the vote in a riding which was previously held by the Liberals, Tamara's resounding victory is yet another clear message from Canadians that they are done with the current NDP Liberal government. Ever since the riding was established by the 2012 federal electoral boundaries redistribution, it has seesawed back and forth between the Liberals and the Conservatives on a narrow margin, 45 to 35, 38 to 35, and 39 to 36. But last night, the seesaw transformed into a catapult, pitching the Liberal candidate by a wide margin of 62% to 16%. It was nothing short of a clear and unmistakable message from Canadians that their patience with this costly coalition government is over. They resoundingly echoed the sentiment expressed by former Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland yesterday when she told the Prime Minister that the Liberals' time in government is coming to an end. For Canadians, that day cannot come soon enough. It is clear that not only can this government not balance a budget, they cannot build the homes, stop the crime, secure the border, save the economy, nor get the debt under control. Even the Globe and Mail noted in an editorial last week that the federal government has consistently prioritized short-sighted decisions over long-term fiscal and economic stability. In the midst of all the uncertainty and recklessness we are experiencing under the NDP Liberal government, Canadians can be assured that one thing is constant: the commitment of a common-sense Conservative government under Pierre Poilievre to navigate this ship out of the stormy waters we constantly find ourselves in, back to the place where Canadians can hope and dream once again for a bright future. Honourable Senators, please join me in congratulating Tamara Jansen and her husband Byron and her very dedicated team on their decisive victory. Thank you.
Senator Platt.
Colleagues, our country today faces a grave challenge.
Colleagues, please.
The incoming administration in the United States is pursuing a policy of aggressive economic nationalism, including a threat of 25% tariffs. We need to take that threat seriously. That means keeping our powder dry today, so we have the reserves that we may need for a coming tariff war. That means eschewing costly political gimmicks, which we can ill afford and which make Canadians doubt that we recognize the gravity of the moment. Those, colleagues, are not my words. They are the words of the former finance minister in her resignation letter to Justin Trudeau. This was not just any minister, but the Deputy Prime Minister of Canada.
Yes, she was. I feel like I didn't stress that enough when I made the past videos. Like, she is one of the biggest names in his cabinet. Hands down. Chrystia Freeland, one of the biggest names that was in Trudeau's cabinet, gone. Bye-bye. And she's literally blaming everything on him. She has turned against him. Full 180. Even though she is partially to blame for all of this as well. We can't just put all the blame on Trudeau, even though, yes, it's really easy to. She is equally to blame just as much as Jagmeet is, and a lot of those Liberal MPs, even the ones that claim Trudeau should resign, they don't have a backbone. They're not actually going to stand up during a non-confidence vote. Right? So, oh man, they're actually collapsing in real time. The cabinet shuffle is happening as we speak. New MPs getting assigned and appointed to different areas in his government. When January happens, or when January happens, when next year January comes around and the House of Commons starts up again, it is going to be crazy. There's going to be new faces everywhere. It's going to be musical chairs to the extreme.
Is resorting to costly political gimmicks which we can ill afford. Yet just days ago, as Conservative senators stood in this chamber and told this chamber that very fact, that Bill C-78 was nothing more than a gimmick, you scoffed at the suggestion and voted overwhelmingly in favor of that ridiculous legislation. You gave this Prime Minister an overwhelming vote of confidence, only to find out later that his own finance minister had already lost confidence in him, and his caucus support was crumbling under his feet. To be honest, I am struggling to understand how this new improved Senate can be considered better than the old one, when it cannot seem to distinguish between self-centered political expediency and good public policy. Former Finance Minister Freeland said herself that Canadians know when we are working for them, and they equally know when we are focused on ourselves. And yet, while Canadians know the difference, the majority of this chamber clearly does not. The warning bells about this government's inability to manage the affairs of the nation have been ringing at deafening levels ever since Justin Trudeau told us that the budget would balance itself. Yet, like a train speeding toward a collapsed bridge, Trudeau-appointed senators have not once pulled on the brake, not even a little bit. They have approved every single budget, every single expenditure, and have enabled this government to blow past its fiscal guardrails repeatedly to bring us to a $61.9 billion debt. I would propose to you that this government is a train wreck in slow motion, and that most of you are complicit in the consequences that are going to follow. And yet, if I'm honest, anyone who is unable to distinguish the difference between good and bad public policy should take a moment to reflect whether serving as a senator is the right role for them.
Tabling of documents, dépôt de documents. Honourable Senators, I have the honour to table in both official languages the report entitled Commentary on the 2023-2024 Financial Audits. Senator Laboucaine-Benson.
Honourable Senators, I have the honour to table in both official languages the 2024 Fall Economic Statement, the public accounts of Canada for the year ended March 31st, 2024, pursuant to Section 64 of the Financial Administration Act, Canada's 10th report on the Convention of the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, and the 2024 concluding observations of the United Nations Committee on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, and the departmental results report for the fiscal year ended March 31st, 2024.
All righty. They should be getting into question period any minute now.
Presenting or tabling reports from committees, présentation au dépôt de rapport de comité. Senator Cotter.
Honourable Senators, I have the honour to present the 34th report of the Standing Senate Committee on Legal and Constitutional Affairs, which deals with Bill C-320, an act to amend the Corrections and Conditional Release Act, disclosure of information to victims.
Yeah, not only did she just table the report and run away, like they didn't have anybody to, I guess, give a statement, even though any one of them could have given the statement. They clearly all stand there and talk about certain things that they have no actual involvement in. Like the Justice Minister talking about the economic update. Like, what the fuck does the Justice Minister know about financials? Like, they'd all just stand there and spew the same BS over and over again. So any one of those MPs could have stood there and given a statement, a pre-written statement. It's not hard. I'm sure they already had one. But yeah, Karina just showed up, runs away after dropping the book. She said, there's books for everybody to read, and then she fucking just runs away. These people don't even take their jobs seriously.
Will we read the bill a third time? Senator Carignan? You're asking, do I propose whether it should be... Yes, let the third reading happen at the next sitting of the Senate. That is what I had understood. I'm a ventriloquist. The Honourable Senator Carignan proposes, seconded by Senator Plett, that the bill be put on the order paper for third reading at the next sitting of the Senate. Is it your pleasure, Honourable Senators, to adopt the motion? Yes, it carried.
This is a motions, préavis de motion du gouvernement, préavis d'interpellation du gouvernement, government notices of inquiries, introduction and first reading of government bills, dépôt et première lecture de projet de loi du gouvernement. Dépôt et première lecture de projet de loi d'intérêt public du Sénat. Introduction and first reading of Senate public bills. First reading of common public bills. Première lecture de projet de loi d'intérêt public des communes. Lecture de...
All right, as they're not translating the French right here, I hope everybody's having a fantastic day. The special stream will probably be one of the last streams of this year. Unless something crazy happens within the next, I don't know, 8 or so days or whatever, but we'll see what happens. I have a strong feeling that all the MPs and the Prime Minister, they're all just off enjoying their holiday. I don't know about you guys, but for me, outside right now, it has been non-stop snowing all day. And we are finally into question period.
With a $62 billion deficit, much as Senator Cardozo wanted to make this look positive.
Made it look like a win.
Our country cannot afford your incompetent government, including this GST tax trick. In her resignation letter, the former Minister of Finance referred to costly political gimmicks which we can ill afford. That's your finance minister. You criticized Conservative senators for calling it a trick, but she agreed with us. After 9 long years, our country is in dire need of a strong, stable leadership. and we're not getting it from the all options Jagmeet Singh or the NDP Liberal government, which must finally come to an end. Leader, are you ashamed of having supported this total economic disaster when even the Minister of Finance herself could not?
Senator Gold.
Well, thank you for your interest in my personal moral sentiment. And I'm happy to stand here representing the government and representing the policies of this government. The fact is, Senator, and I'm not going to speak personally about you or your colleagues, though you seem to have spoken quite personally about the independent senators and the independent Senate. The fact remains that, no, I am not ashamed. If you take the time to look at the fall economic statement, you will see that despite the increase in spending, which is undeniable, there are important investments that are being made there to further protect our borders and our security and help Canadians. And I'd be happy to elaborate further if you are interested in the policy issues.
Senator Plett.
Clearly, even the finance minister was ashamed of it. She wouldn't deliver it.
That's right.
Leader, I did the responsible thing and offered you to pass supply last Friday. You turned me down because of the optics. Now everyone sees where government by optics has led us. The NDP Liberal government is in total shambles, and their gimmicks have put Canada in a terrible position. When will we have a carbon tax election?
Senator Gold.
On this last day, I believe before we rise, you have chosen to disclose private conversations. Let me be clear about what my position was to this chamber, to the leaders, and to you, sir. It was that it would be irresponsible for the Senate to rise before the House rises because the House may be very well be providing us with work that we would have a constitutional obligation to do. So please, Senator, with all due respect, do not misrepresent either my words or my...
Oh! Gold got mad there. Holy, he did not like that in the slightest. Quite rare that we see people actually get heated to a level like that in the Senate.
Husakos.
Senator Gold, as Canadians grapple with the prospect of a tariff war with the United States, Justin Trudeau is focusing on gimmicks and trying to hold on to power. And all the while, our country is facing a historic cost of living crisis. From housing affordability and food insecurity to rising housing debt, inflation, and daily expenses. These challenges are being further exacerbated by Justin Trudeau's carbon tax. Prime Minister, of course, he claims that the carbon tax is essential to safeguarding the future of our children and grandchildren. He even goes on to say it's essential in order to prevent Canada from burning down to the ground because of global warming. But the truth is, Justin Trudeau is burning down this country to its foundation all on his own, government leader. With deficits like the unprecedented $62 billion unveiled yesterday, which is over 50% of what the government projected, we are finding ourselves going over the debt fiscal guardrails. Senator Gold, my question is very simple. Do you still have confidence that this government can steer a bright future for
Senator Gold.
A good question.
There were many comments and one question. To answer as much of that as I can. First of all, once again, Senator, with all due respect, you are offside what reputable independent economists have said, not only about the carbon tax as a policy, but its actual impact on prices, but that is consistent with the narrative that you spread. The fact remains that notwithstanding the increased spending that increased the deficit, it is the case that as independent economists have also said, indeed even recently before our committees, that Canada's economy is a sustainable one, and the investments that are being made in the fall economics towards our border security, towards affordability issues that Canadians desperately need are in the best interest of Canadians.
Senator Husakos.
Reputable economists, reputable in the Trudeau government right now, those two words don't go together. Why don't you listen to the voters in BC who made it clear last night that...
Dude, there's some fighting words in this last day of the Senate. I can't lie. not happy with each other here. That's for damn sure, especially after that economic statement dropped.
They have no confidence in this government. Former ministers like Catherine McKenna have made it clear they've lost confidence, as have several caucus members. And Trudeau's own deputy prime minister, his most trusted sidekick for years, has made it clear she has lost confidence in the leadership of this government. One simple question, Senator Gold: do you have confidence in this inept and disastrous government?
Senator Gold.
Bousakis. The issue is whether the House of Commons has confidence in this government. And as far as when I last looked, the government still enjoys the confidence of the House of Commons. And with regard to the economists, Trevor Toomb and Jennifer Winter, the University of Calgary professors who are not government employees, were very clear about the facts which you continue to deny about the impact of carbon pricing on the cost of living.
Senator Galvez.
Senator Gold, global affairs in the final stage of negotiating a free trade agreement with Ecuador. Amongst other things, it aims to promote more Canadian mining. In October, a delegation of Ecuadorian indigenous women leaders and water defenders visited Ottawa and shared allegations of human rights violation and environmental threats linked to Canadian mine projects. Recently, Amnesty International reports a worsening human rights situation and attacks on people seeking to protect their land and water. What concrete step is the government taking to independently evaluate the human rights impacts on increased Canadian mining in Ecuador?
Senator Gold.
Thank you for your question, Senator, and for your continued advocacy and concerns for the interaction of economic development, mining, and the impact on human rights generally and on Indigenous interests here and abroad. It is a fact that these all intersect. And although we tend often to think of them in silo terms, and certainly those who represent themselves to us often present one side of it, it is all interconnected, as we are all in this world. As you know, the government has CORE, which is the Office of the Canadian Ombudsman for Responsible Enterprise, which reviews complaints and concerns about possible human rights abuses by Canadian companies when these companies work outside Canada, in the garment industry, in the mining industry, and indeed in the oil and gas sectors. So the government takes concerns that you've raised very seriously, and I will certainly raise them with the Minister.
Senatrice Galvez.
Merci. Affairs Canada released a summary of its initial gender-based analysis of the Canada-Ecuador free trade negotiation. It did not include any information about gender-based impacts of mining in Ecuador, including reports of increased threats and gender-based violence against women in mining communities. What steps will the government take to address this regrettable gap in this gender impact assessment?
Senator Gold.
Well, thank you for the question and for bringing that to my attention. I do not know what information has been provided to the Minister in this regard, and I certainly know the Minister would be open to such information, and I will raise it with the Minister at the next earliest opportunity.
Senator Boyer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Gold, on November 26 during question period, I asked the Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations when he expects to conclude treaty negotiations with the Manitoba Métis Federation and the Métis Nation Saskatchewan, to which he replied he was planning to conclude one of them within days and the other one within weeks. While I congratulate the MMF on concluding their treaty negotiations, it doesn't appear that the Métis Nation of Saskatchewan treaty will be finalized within weeks. Métis citizens across the homeland were encouraged to hear the Minister's commitment to finalizing these important treaties promptly. Can you please inform us when MNS can expect to conclude their treaty negotiations and how the Minister plans to accomplish this within his self-imposed timeline?
Senator Gold.
Well, thank you, and thank you for reminding us of the progress, though not completed, that has been made with regard to the Métis Nation, Saskatchewan,
relationship with Canada and the updated Métis Nation Saskatchewan Self-Government Recognition and Implementation Agreement. It's an important milestone, but we're not there yet. The government is indeed working assiduously towards a self-government treaty with Métis Nation Saskatchewan. The government looks forward to continuing this important and ongoing work around the negotiating table, and it will continue to work with all Métis partners to promote reconciliation, to renew relationships, and advance their visions for self-determination, and to build a better future for their citizens and for future generations. I don't know of the timetable or the exact status of this, but I am assured that the work is continuing in good faith and responsibly.
Senator Boyer.
Last month, the minister appeared confident he would be able to conclude this treaty. And it sounds like Canada is making last-minute changes that are delaying the progress on it. And after making a public commitment to finishing this treaty within weeks, what do you think these factors are that have changed so drastically to slow the progress on the Métis Nation of Saskatchewan and not meet the minister's commitment?
Senator Gold.
And thank you, Senator Boyer. I have not followed the negotiations at all. And so I can't answer your specific question, but I am in touch regularly with the minister, and I will certainly raise it with him.
Thank you.
Senator.
Thank you, Senator. I'm currently not doing my job properly, so I will eventually get to that. Oh, wait, it's Christmas break, so never mind.
Ross.
Senator Gold, the government's move to ban net pen farming of salmon in British Columbia will cost billions annually in lost revenue and thousands of jobs. This isn't even taking into consideration coastal First Nations communities' self-determination. The government's own action plan says, quote, many First Nations and coastal communities that rely on the economic and employment opportunities associated with open net pen salmon aquaculture are rural and remote with limited economic opportunities, and that First Nations are united in their concerns about potential negative economic impacts on Indigenous communities and business owners as the sector transitions away from open net pen technologies, end of quote. When will this government listen to their own senior advisors and come up with a realistic plan surrounding net pen salmon farming and First Nation rights?
Senator Gold.
Senator, thank you for your question. The government is committed and remains committed to both protecting wild salmon and promoting more sustainable aquacultural practices. And as you correctly point out, these issues come together in many areas, BC being one, but only one. East Coast is also facing issues. Over the last several years, the Department of Fisheries and Oceans has heard a wide range of opinions, concerns, and views on open net pen salmon aquaculture in British Columbia. The government remains committed to ensuring a responsible, a realistic, and an achievable transition that will encourage innovative forms of aquaculture production for a more sustainable future.
Senator Ross.
Thank you. The release of the draft transition plan came 3 months late. The government has said the final transition plan will be released in 2025. When does the government anticipate releasing of the final plan?
Yeah, so as I was saying earlier in the stream, we got hit by some copyright claims. Not strikes, but claims. Copyright claims can turn into strikes, though, depending on what you've uploaded. I don't know if I'm necessarily flying under the CBC radar, but it's definitely YouTube's algorithm and AI system, or like they have some sort of system that works through every single stream and video to check for copyrighted content. It's just the fact that the CBC went out of their way to copyright claim the videos and the stream, and then a few days later, it's all removed and gone. So what were they trying to do there? Well, they were probably trying to scare creators or independent journalists or whatever you want to call people on YouTube. They were probably trying to scare them into trimming the segments or taking down the videos. More or less a way of silencing in some way, shape, or form. I get copyright claims all the time and have dealt with them all the time. So I was just going to fight them as per usual. But they got removed. They got removed. Public domain. They don't own CPAC. I know it's weird. It's very, very weird how they work. I guess technically they could buy a certain clip from CPAC. I don't know how that would work, but the CBC is government run and paid for anyway. So what is the government just buying its own feed, its own government feed? I don't know, man. It's a very strange system. It's a very weird way of how it works, but the simple fact is they did it and then they removed it. So that tells you a lot about how it works behind the scenes. And yeah, I pulled up the screenshot earlier in the stream and everything. Very weird.
Senator Gold.
Thank you for your question. I don't have a timetable. I do know that the discussions with stakeholders, consultations with Indigenous communities and other interests are a necessary part of getting this right, because there are economic interests, environmental interests, ecological interests, community interests that in some issues pull in different directions. So I certainly will raise with the minister your concerns about the timetable, but I just don't have the specific answer for you today.
Senatress Odette.
Yeah, it sounds like Gold doesn't have a lot of specific answers ever. I am on Twitter. I am on X. So if you want to follow me, my handle's right there. It's been there. I had a handle for Rumble as well, but I've decided to no longer upload there due to some recent things that have gone on with that platform. I'm not going to get into it, but if you know, you know. As much as I love Rumble and their idea of being a full free speech platform, the people that they had just recently acquired onto that platform, I cannot I can't be associated with that. I cannot be associated with that. That is just not good. Like I said, if you know, you know. I'm not going to specifically get into who Rumble has decided to deal with. The person they've decided to deal and make a deal with isn't even a political person either. It's actually more of an entertainment streamer. So yeah, Rumble, in my opinion, was fine. They clearly have a bias when it comes to big creators, and they're clearly more willing to help, and push larger creators. I mean, if you want to do that business model in practice, that's fine. But you have a lot of smaller individuals on that platform that could bring in a larger audience than specifically just politics. And they brought in somebody who does something specifically not political. But yeah, I can't involve myself with that shit anymore, man. Yes, you could say it's a disrespectful creator. We'll just put it at that to say the very minimum. Yeah. No, I'm just gone off of Rumble. That's it. If you want to use Rumble, go right ahead. I'm not going to judge you for using Rumble. I'm not going to tell you which platforms you can and can't use. But that's just me and my opinion.
Odette.
Senator Odette. Microphone, please. Yesterday, I was reading an article on Radio-Canada where part of the deficit is attributed to Indigenous peoples. You can imagine that I was shocked to read that article. And it's important to recall that Canada has legal and moral obligations towards Indigenous peoples. Historic treaties, modern agreements, all kinds of commitments that must recognize and especially respect our Indigenous rights, and of course the right to self-determination and restitution of lands. Is this a roundabout way of trying to blame us for the government's problems and responsibilities? Senator Gold, thank you for the question. I do not have all the details before me, but if I've correctly understood, and I hope I'm right, there are investments, or to be more specific, there is money set aside to meet obligations towards Indigenous peoples. It reflects a constitutional and moral obligation that Canada has towards its Indigenous peoples. The government will never set that aside just for optics or even for partisan politics. These are sacred obligations, I would say. And that's why it was put into the economic fall statement. Senator Odette, is it possible in that case, is it possible to ask the high-ranking official to review their answer? Because it seems like it's our fault that we're responsible for a good chunk of the deficit. So I trust you, because stereotypes and systemic racism, as we all know, exist. And so this needs to be corrected so that the people don't get the impression that we're in this position because of Indigenous peoples. Senator Gold, thank you. And perhaps we can discuss that further, because I was unaware of that official's response. My answer, and I hope I was right, had to do with facts that were laid out in the fall economic statement. I will undertake to find more information on that. Thank you. Senator Carignan. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. Leader, last week, in my speech against Bill C-78 on the GST two-month holiday, I provided 32 reasons for voting against that bill. Yesterday, in her resignation letter, Minister Freeman added a 33rd, saying that Bill C-78 is a trick, a gimmick, a costly political gimmick that we cannot afford. Mr. Leader, do you share the former finance minister's analysis? Senator Gold. Thank you for the question. That allows me, first of all, to express the government's gratitude towards Ms. Freeland, who, from every perspective, is a great Canadian. Among her many accomplishments, Ms. Freedom signed the commercial trade agreement with Europe. She renegotiated NAFTA. She announced the National Day Care Program and managed a difficult situation with Ukraine, the war with Ukraine, among other impressive accomplishments. And despite the opposition of several senators, we did adopt that fiscal measure, and I hope that Canadians will benefit from it. Senator Carignan. Mr. Leader, yesterday the government tabled in the other place the fall economic statement, and not one single minister was present to answer the opposition party's questions. The deficit was 50% higher than last year's deficit, reaching $62 billion. Ministers left the room, Mr. Leader. They avoided their own responsibilities. Is that normal? Are they embarrassed? Are they ashamed? Senator Gold, it's not my place to comment what goes on in the other place. But aren't we lucky that I'm here before you to answer all of your questions on the behalf of the government?
In 2018, Prime Minister Trudeau said people can experience their interactions differently. They sure do. Just ask the women in Justin Trudeau's cabinet about their experiences with him. Jody Wilson-Raybould said, "I wish I had never met you." Overboard. Jane Philpott said, "There's much more to the story that should be told." Overboard. Selena Caesar-Chavannes said, "I have never been so scared in my life to be in a room with someone." Overboard. And now Chrystia Freeland says in veiled language, Canadians know when we are working for them, and they equally know when we are focused on ourselves. And look, now she's overboard too. Seems any time a woman says no or calls this Prime Minister on his behaviour, she finds herself ejected. It's not 2015 anymore, it's 2024. And you know what we call a man who repeatedly bullies and demotes a woman who challenges him, Senator Gold? Sexist. When will this fake feminist Prime Minister finally do us all a favour and cut his own boat adrift?
Senator Gold.
Well, thank you. I feel like it's, the end of the year. It's like the greatest hits from past years, as the musician in me always likes these ends of year hit parade lists. Colleagues, when it comes to actually doing things for women, this government that support women, this government has delivered, whether it's affordable childcare, which is making it...
Senator Gold, vous avez la parole.
Whoa.
Senator Gold, you have the floor.
Affordable childcare, which is making it possible for hundreds of thousands of women to join the workforce and have access to the needed childcare at an affordable price for their children, whether it's to provide free contraception or the Canada Child Benefit when it comes, which is helping Canada pay the bills. This government delivers. What does the Conservative parliamentarians do each and every time? They vote against such measures. Actions speak louder than words.
Senator Batters.
Wow. 1 week ago at an Equal Voice dinner, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau proclaimed, "I want you to know that I am and will always be a proud feminist," and touted Chrystia Freeland as his first female finance minister. But she disagreed with him on policy, and 3 days after that dinner on Zoom, he threw her out of the finance portfolio and replaced her with a man. Justin Trudeau's proud feminism is a charade, Senator Gold. What is it with this Prime Minister and his inability to take no for an answer when it comes from a woman?
I bet you Trudeau probably couldn't even define a woman.
Senator Gold.
Again, I simply do not accept the premise of your question, but once again, this government has delivered, and for so long as it has the confidence of the House, it will continue to deliver real programs for real people, including women, their children, and their families.
Senator Lafreda.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
For the government represented in the Senate, Senator Gold, the government introduced its fall economic statement yesterday. While I am disappointed the deficit is increasing by $22 billion, there are several new policy initiatives that the business community should appreciate. For instance, I welcome the creation of the Red Tape Reduction Office. Canada's regulatory system, which often includes outdated and overly burdensome regulation, is in dire need of an overhaul. When this new office will be launched, can you confirm that it will rely on current research and data to hit the ground running and avoid any delays? Our economy literally can't afford months and years of further consultation when much work has already been done on the matter.
Senator Gold.
Thank you, Senator, for your question. This government has and will continue to make decisions that are data-driven, based upon the most current research and data, and I have every confidence that the new office will hit the ground running in order to deliver on the important issues that you underlined.
Senator Lafreda.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Tape and excessive government regulations, interprovincial trade barriers come to mind. The government is committing to publishing a list of specific restrictive measures that each province has in place that are preventing trade within Canada. Will the government rely on the good work of our Banking Committee's 2016 report, tear down these walls, which already suggested measures to eliminate these barriers and promote economic growth?
Senator Gold.
This government has and will continue to rely on and be inspired by, and informed by the good work of our Senate committees. The government has already taken strong action by reducing a third of the federal exemptions, which is providing greater mobility for Canadian businesses, more opportunities to grow and to compete anywhere in the country. That work needs to continue at the federal level and certainly needs to continue at the provincial level. Thank you for your question.
Senator Coyle.
Senator Gold, 2 weeks ago I asked whether the government would follow the Net Zero Advisory Body's recommendation to set an ambitious 2035 emissions reduction target of 50 to 55% below 2005 levels. While I'm pleased the government has now, a little late, set a target, 45 to 50% falls short of the NZAB recommendation. Minister Guilbeault has stated that the target balances ambition and achievability, pointing to the need for greater provincial cooperation to achieve meaningful results. NZAB says deeper emissions cuts are both necessary and achievable. Senator Gold, how is the government working with the provinces and territories to secure stronger collaboration and commitment towards achieving our new emissions reductions target and our broader climate goals?
Senator Gold.
Thank you for your question. Look, the government has already taken ambitious action to address climate change, and as you noted, the federal government has chosen a target which it felt was both ambitious but also achievable, because ultimately the minister and the government wants to be as ambitious as Canada can possibly be, but as you pointed out and as we all know, federal government simply cannot do it alone. As the minister said, some provinces are refusing to act on climate change, indeed to even recognize that climate change is a problem, or a problem that should even be taken seriously in the face of their own other economic interests.
My God.
Having said that, the government will continue to work with provinces to address this very serious issue.
Senator Coyle.
I hope so, because it's absolutely critical that that collaboration works for the betterment of the country and the.
It's absolutely critical that you just tax the ever-living hell out of people. My God.
Globe. Thank you, Senator Gold. The Net Zero Advisory Body recommends adopting a national carbon budget to track emissions, set milestones, and ensure accountability. We see this in the UK, New Zealand, France. Carbon budgets offer clear pathways to net zero and address unexpected variability. Will the government commit to implementing a national carbon budget to meet its new emissions target?
Mary, our country isn't the problem when it comes to that, if that's what you even want to run on as an issue.
Senator Gold.
Well, thank you for your question, Senator. As you've heard me say before, I really can't commit at this juncture to any new programs or commitments, but I certainly will raise this important matter with the minister.
Senator Quinn.
Thank you, Speaker. And I'm asking this question on behalf of Senator Deakin, Nova Scotia, who unexpectedly can't be here in the chamber with us. Senator Gold, a year ago, the CRTC issued an order forcing Bell, TELUS, and SaskTel to allow smaller market competitors to buy wholesale access to fiber optic cable nationwide. This CRT decision, which was supported by the Competition Bureau, would have improved competition in internet services markets across Canada, but especially in Ontario and Quebec, where Bell, Rogers, Videotron, and Cogeco dominate. It appears that Bell petitioned the government over this matter in the spring. Unfortunately, Cabinet just blocked the CRTC's pro-competitive decision. Consequently, dominated incumbents will not have to provide small competitors in a market with the opportunity to buy access to their infrastructure. This undermines competition, contradicts the CRTC decision reached after 17 months of public hearings, and flies in the face of government's commitment to bring lower telecom prices to Canadians. Senator Gold, what was Cabinet's rationale?
Senator Gold.
Well, thank you for your question, Senator Quinn, and to Senator Deakin, who I'm sure is interested in my answer as well. This is my understanding, and it's based upon the Governor and Council order. The government has concerns about future and ongoing investments in broadband infrastructure and services in Ontario and Quebec, including in rural, remote, and Indigenous communities. And these concerns are that these investments could, if they are unprofitable, lead to a decline in quality and in consumer choice in the retail internet services market. Therefore, the government has referred the CRTC's decision back to the CRTC to reconsider no later than 90 days after the day in which the order is made, whether Bell Canada, Rogers Communications Canada Inc. and TELUS Communications Inc. and their affiliates should be prohibited from using integrated FTTP services in Ontario and Quebec further to tariffs approved by the Commission.
Senator Quinn.
Senator Gold, last year, Minister Champagne overruled the Competition Bureau and approved Rogers' sale of Shaw's wireless service to Videotron for a $1 billion discount, a discount that Rogers' board would have only approved if they were confident it would deliver increased revenues through higher fees to consumers. Again, an expert decision was overridden politically. Why is the government so explicitly ruling in favor of the big telecom firms?
Senator Gold.
Well, thank you, Senator Quinn. This was not a question of overruling. It was a question of the government assuming its responsibilities to protect consumers by asking the CRTC to reconsider its decision.
Senator Platt.
Leader, the shambolic and incompetent NDP Liberal government must come to an end as quickly as possible. The fall economic statement says your government has no plans to ever balance the budget. The guardrail of $40 billion.
Yeah, it'll balance itself, Mark, or not Mark. Donald, don't worry.
Year and next. Anyone who thinks next year's deficit will be only $48.3 billion is living in a fantasy land, Senator Cardozo. The Prime Minister dropped this mess on Canadians yesterday and then had absolutely nothing to say about it. In fact, after the statement was tabled in the House, not a single cabinet minister was willing to speak about it. What leadership? They all need to go, don't they?
Whoa.
Senator Gold.
You spend 99% of your questions making a speech, and then you simply ask me a partisan question about that I'm not going to answer. What I'm going to say is that with regard to the fall economic statement, so I'm happy to stand here and provide some facts to this chamber, as I think is my responsibility and our responsibility to consider, is that notwithstanding the increase in spending, and the lines are there for all to read and study, the fact remains that we are continuing to have our debt to GDP ratio decline, with deficits forecasted to shrink from 1.6% of GDP today to just 0.6% in some few short years. This will help preserve our AAA credit rating, and it will help maintain our ability to sustain whatever.
Thank you, Senator Gold. Senator Platt.
Well, after the next election, Senator Gold, you can teach us all how to ask questions when you ask questions of the Leader of the Government. The deficit is out of control, Senator Gold. Cost of living is out of control, Senator Gold. Our immigration system is out of control, Senator Gold. The border is out of control, Senator Gold. Crime is out of control, Senator Gold. Canadians deserve better than this chaos, don't they, Senator Gold? When will there be a carbon tax election, Senator Gold?
Senator Gold.
Well, I know we both went to grade school and learned the difference between declarative sentences and questions, but there was a question at the end. I don't know when there will be election. For the moment, the government has the confidence of the House and therefore remains the government. And so long as it remains the government, it will continue to govern in the best interest of Canadians.
Honourable Senators, the time for question period is now expired.
Delayed answers, réponses différées. Orders of the day, ordre du jour.
Affaires du gouvernement. Bills, third reading. Projet de loi, troisième lecture. Number 1, C79.
Senator Laboucaine-Benson.
Honourable Senators, I move that this bill be read a third time.
L'honorable sénatrice
It is moved by the Honourable Senator Laboucaine-Benson, seconded by the Honourable Senator Gold, that the bill be read a third time. On debate, Senator Laboucaine-Benson.
Honourable Senators, I'm pleased to speak as sponsor of Bill C-79, Appropriation Act No. 4, 2024-25, which seeks approval for the spending outlined in the Supplementary Estimates B. Appropriation bills, like this one, are a fundamental part of Parliament's annual financial cycle. They are the mechanism to approve funds presented in the estimates documents and scrutinized by parliamentarians. Once they're approved, the funds will flow to departments and agencies so they can keep delivering the programs and services.
Had to briefly run to the washroom there. I believe that is most likely going to do it for the stream today. I was just going to cover the question periods that had happened, but the 18th and 19th didn't end up happening, so I ended up doing a bit of statements by members into question period to extend the stream as long as possible. Pierre Polyev says he is asking GG. Who's GG? I don't understand that one. I know the PP, but I don't get the GG. To call emergency non-confidence vote today. Ooh. Are we actually going to get an emergency non-confidence vote today? Because if so, I will definitely go live again for that. I don't know how would that even work, though. It's actually kind of wild if that would actually happen. Probably, I hope not. Probably not, I hope. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I doubt it as well. I mean, everything has been shut down, so for all the members to come back to Parliament on a Friday, or if they would do it over a Zoom call or something, that seems kind of crazy. Anyway, that is going to do it for the special stream today. A bit disappointing on the fact that we didn't get some extra question periods here on the 18th and 19th, but it doesn't shock me. the Senate and the House of Commons went on an early Christmas break. So, doing work for the people, doing the finest work for the people. All right, guys, I hope you have a fantastic holiday, or the best holiday that you can. This might be one of the last streams of the year. I don't know if I'll be live again within the next few weeks. We will see. If anything happens, though, I will go live. I will make videos on it. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me today on the special Friday stream. Like I said, hopefully you have an amazing holidays. Merry Christmas. Eat a lot if you can. And I will see you all when the next stream or big piece of news hits. All right, guys, take it easy.